Sometimes we run into teeth like this that are basically non-restorable, but the patient really wants to save them. We had teeth number 19, 20, 21, and they had large decay and basically no ferrule that was going to be left over after caries removal, but patient really wanted to save them. So we said, let's see what we can do. All right, guys, so we got this case here. You can see that I have some teeth that are pretty non-restorable, and they have large decay. A lot of people would say you can't fix these teeth, but we're doing it. So you can see I'm starting out here by getting isolation with the rubber dam and making an access now into number 19 here. And basically what I'm trying to do is remove all the decay, because what I don't want to do is start forcing decay down into the apex when I am doing my root canal. Obviously, that would be really bad. So I'm just removing this decay here. You can see kind of going in here, carefully debriding, removing. My rubber dam placement, I'll just mention it right here. You'll notice it's not the most ideal, but it actually was kind of handy for being able to get behind with the low volume suction. But I'm feeling around trying to find these access. I remember I was having a lot of trouble getting into the buccal canal, I believe it was. And you'll see me struggling with that a little bit here. I've got a 6 file and I'm just feeling around trying to find that little tiny orifice opening there. I'm using a munce burr, doing some troughing here in a slow speed, trying to kind of open that area up. I could see right where the canal orifice was. At some point I want to make a video about that, because I learned this trick on where to look for calcified canals, where to avoid. Basically, avoid the white, go to the dark. Like if you see a circle of white, go in the middle of that. Don't stray out. Don't think that that white area is calcification of the canal. You want to go where it's darker. But anyway, that's what I'm doing here is I'm trying to, look around. I'm troughing all over the place. And you can see the blue stuff there. That's opal dam, or actually that's cool dam that I'm using here, not opal dam. And that cool dam is just to kind of help seal off the additional little gaps that you get in your rubber dam with a split dam technique like we have here. It's not technically split dam, but we have multiple teeth that are, we're working on all at once. So we're doing root canals on 19, 20, 21. We're gonna do posts on 20 and 21 because as you saw in the x-rays, like these teeth are not restorable without that, without posts and crown lengthening. Big issue. So what I decided here, I'm just opening that access up because I was like, whoa, like why am I trying to work through this little tiny access? It really wasn't tiny in the beginning, but I was like, why don't I just open it up so I can literally see everything that I need to see, because this whole crown is coming off anyways, and the edge of the crown is what was obstructing my view. So without really doing any harm to the tooth, I was able to get straight line access and visibility, and I think it was one of the keys to actually finding all 3 of these canals. And 1 distal canal and then 2 medial. And you can kind of see here, you can see where the canals are located there in these different photos. And I'm using the Brasseler, not their NiTi files, just their regular rotary files, and then using some hypochlorite. I've been making sure lately that I allow my hypochlorite to sit in the canals for at least 5 minutes, changing it out several times. I'm kind of agitating it using the ESX file and using the ESX file to essentially get that remainder of the agitation that we need and get that worked in all those places, all those little grooves where the bacteria we know we're hiding down in there. You can see this PA, you can sort of see the lengths. I took that with the files in place to essentially get a sense of how close to the apex we were, make sure we're good. Doing some more hypochlorite here, just kind of, getting down there. You can see a little blood come out right here, watch, on number 20. You can see there's a little bit of heme, a little weepiness in that canal. And usually that's because either you haven't instrumented enough or you've over-instrumented. Because imagine if you haven't instrumented enough, you could have little bleeders that are still inside the canal, and it could be welling up from those. I've actually had times where I was just a little short. I took an x-ray and I saw I was a little short, so I just went another 0.5 millimeter or whatever, and that took care of it. Paper points to dry. I like to get my paper points nice and bone dry, obviously. Still a little bleeding. See that red one? That was from number 20. We did eventually get that to stop, thankfully. But so the greens are size 35s. These are 0.04 paper points from Brasseler. And just kind of going in, getting these paper points placed here. And essentially, now I'm placing my sealer. You know, I do it different ways at different times. In this case, I'm just barely carrying it down the canals with a paper point that's been measured. Because I have my paper points listed out here. My assistant wrote down what goes where, and my gutta perches, we lay the gutta perches in those spots. So we kind of know what goes where, and I'll pinch the gutta percha at where the length that it needs to be. See, we like these little styrofoam plates. You see that in the background? We put the paper points on those and the gutta perches. It keeps everything really separated and neat. Anyway, adding my BC sealer from Brasseler on my paper points, just on my gutta percha, I just thinly coat that. See that? Oh, just a little bit. It doesn't take much. Obviously, if you do too much, you can get extrusion. We don't want any of that sealer down in the canals, in the IAN canal. We don't want it going beyond the apex much here. In areas where I'm not as concerned about that, if we have a good distance from the inferior alveolar nerve, then I'll kind of make sure I get a little puff, but I'm super cautious in these areas. I don't really want much puff out there at all. Pushing them down until my mark is at the cavo-surface margin, so I know I'm good. Just kind of fitting them here. Sometimes I'll do a little plunger action, but honestly, in this case, I didn't really want that because once again, I don't want a ton of extrusion. Okay, so we're done with the root canals. I did the searing. Looks like we didn't catch that on the video, but I am using my post preparation. I use the Flexi Posts, the titanium Flexi Posts, and I'm using that little drill that they send with them to kind of prepare the space. Don't want to remove all the gutta percha, but I want to remove enough that I can get a good depth of that post. You know, I want to go a third of the way, halfway down the root, maybe even 2/3 sometimes. Just depends on the situation. But I felt like in this case that maybe I think I ended up going a little less than halfway down, probably like a third the way down. But those Flexi Post drills never actually get as much preparation as I actually need. So you can see I'm going in with my high speed and actually opening it up a little bit with the high speed. They send the little screwdriver. You're supposed to actually like use the threads to like engage the walls of your preparation for the post space. That freaks me out. I don't like the idea of like that splitting force on the tooth, so I don't do it that way. You can see I'm pushing in with my thumb. So I widen it out a little bit, and I rely on our super good cements to hold my post in there. Works super well for me. I don't have any problems with it, with them popping out or whatever. So you can see my rubber dams a little open. Look at that. See all that gutta percha? I almost wish we had like stopped and replaced the rubber dam so it would look prettier, but hey, this is real world dentistry, and clinically that gutta percha on the dam isn't gonna make a difference. You see, I just dried with paper points. What I was doing there is I want the post space to be dry so that when I go in with my cement, it doesn't have moisture contamination. I'm using this little, I'm using Nexus for my post cement, and you can use the tips that come with the Brasseler orifice barrier. I mean, you can probably buy them from anywhere, but I get them from Brasseler with their blue orifice barrier sealer. It works super good for those tips that are flexible and skinny. You can get that cement all the way down there, because otherwise what I find is I'll end up not getting cement all the way to the apex of my post space, and then you get an air gap, and I worry about that air gap creating like, I don't know, like a space for bacteria to live or something, or gas to accumulate in there. I just prefer it to be cement all the way down. So that's why I do it that way. Curing it with the light and then adding in a couple more increments here of, now it looks like I've left decay behind. It's just affected dentin. It's not infected dentin. So that's why I left that brown area behind. And also filling up, doing a buildup on number 19 here. We can see that number 19, we finished that at some point. No post needed there, I didn't think. So we just went ahead and kind of built it up, did a core buildup. Now, I took a bunch of time going in and refining my preparations with a high speed Took me a while. I've got that cool dam off so I don't get in the way of my margins, but we left the dam on to at least keep some semblance of, what would you call it, isolation. Although when you have that cool dam off, you still do get some, I mean, you can see his lip is almost there, like poking through. It's not ideal, but this was an IV sedation case, so I wanted to try for as much moisture control as possible. And I spent quite a bit of time here just going along, removing decay, and trying to find good clean margins. And it took a while because these teeth, like I said, a lot of people would look at these and be like, what are you doing even trying to save these teeth? That's 3 implants right there. And you know what? I offered that to the patient and he said, no, I really want to save these teeth. Is there any way we can try? And I said, yeah, we can try. So that's what we did. So I'm going in, you can see the sparks flying there a little bit off of that titanium post when I'm going in with my diamond burr, and just trying to get in there, really prepare that margin, get it smooth. In a moment, what we're going to do is reflect the gums, and we're going to do some good crown lengthening for him. So just refining the preps more now. I decided to go dry and just, you know, get the rest of that decay removed. You say, isn't that going to hurt the tooth? No, these teeth are root canaled now. And, you know, yeah, you can kind of scorch your dentin a little bit, but that's not going to long-term like damage the tooth structure or anything to go dry. Refining number 19, it's so hard to see in this video. I apologize for the how hard. It's just access. My fingers are in the way. My assistant's trying to get the camera just right. You can see I'm getting into a little bit of bleeding there. Now, at this point, you can see I'm still using a contra-angle handpiece, or not contra-angle, what's that called? Like a high-speed handpiece with a 90-degree head on it. It's forward venting, so it is blowing air. Obviously, if you've laid a flap, you don't want to do this. You want to use a rear venting surgical handpiece because you don't want an air emphysema. But at this point, we're safe. We're totally good to be doing this. So yeah, just going in here, getting this all cleaned up. See, we are getting some heme now at this point, so we're going to be dealing with that. And you see that little speck of blue right by where my burr is right now? That little speck of blue is literally the orifice barrier from Brassler. You can see it again there showing through, so it doesn't matter. Once again, affected dentin, not infected. Okay, look at that. You see the margin of the prep is right at bone level. Not going to fly. We've got to do crown lengthening. Open to flap. Here I did that crown lengthening. I measured. You can say I had 3 millimeters there of distance from restorative margin down to the bone level. And there's the temps in place with some sutures. We stitched it back up afterwards. That's the case, guys. Thanks so much for watching. And we'll see you in the next time. You know, I'm going to try to keep these videos coming. And I hope that we can kind of start to hit on some stuff that is interesting to you guys. And yeah, thanks again. We'll see you next time.